be open-minded. She says it's the greatest gift that you can offer to not only yourselves, but to humanity itself.
Welcome to Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik. Hello, Janet Kubik. How are you today?
Hello, Joe Oliva. I am very well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm also well. Your back is feeling a little bit better each week, I guess.
Yes, slowly but surely making improvements. So it's a good thing. Yes.
Speaking of improvements, Segue King here. We have done zero marketing for this podcast / YouTube show, but I want to thank people because I have noticed our YouTube numbers slowly but surely creeping up, and we haven't really marketed. All we do at the end of each podcast is we say, please subscribe to YouTube, etc. And people have been doing that. But also we have noticed, you haven't noticed this, but I can see in the back end what's going on, that we have a lot of American people listening to the podcast in particular. So much so that the number one app that they're watching it on is called Pandora. We can't even get that in Canada. But it
really?
it is by far dwarfing all the other apps combined, like Spotify and Apple Music or Apple whatever. So yeah, I don't know how it happened. Maybe we just fell into an algorithm there and they've been pushing it to people that are listening to other podcasts of this nature. But thank you to all those people who have sort of started following along.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice to hear. I love that you kind of saved telling me that until we got until we went live today. But that's really wonderful. Thank you. And I've said from the beginning, this whole crazy experience, I know it's serving me in so many ways, but I've often asked like a million times why this was sort of happening and what I was meant to do with it, and how I was meant to help others with it. And the answer that I almost always get from Spirit is to share. And that's really what this is about for me, is the idea of just sharing this experience. And I personally find it super cool to be going through this and getting to hear from Spirit. And I find what they have to say really supportive to me. And so I'm just really thankful for the opportunity to share it with people, and hopefully it will help them too.
Okay, so for those who have been following the last few podcasts, you'll notice that my mediumship or psychic abilities are very poor, because I have done some guesses on who's going to come forward, and I have failed each time. I'm 0 for 3. So I guess Bob Marley, no Bob. I guess Nostradamus, no Nostra. And I guess William Shakespeare, and no Bill. So
No.
I thought, yeah, no Bill. So I'm sure his friends called him Bill, right?
Probably, right?
Billy, right? So I thought today, just for fun, let's see if I can ask you to bring someone forward. I know that's not normally how we do things on the show. We sort of let things go as they just sort of naturally go. But I thought it might be fun if I could ask you to summon a particular person, and then we'll see what happens.
All right, I'm totally game for it. Let's give it a whirl.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask for Bob Marley today. I'm not going to ask for Nostradamus or William. I thought it might be interesting if you could summon the last pharaoh of Egypt, Cleopatra.
Wow. Okay, that would be super amazing. Okay, no pressure at all, but that would be super cool. Okay, so this is the challenge, right? Am I ready? Let's give it a whirl. Okay, so I just to give a sort of sense of process, I'm just connecting with my guides and saying that this is sort of my intention, is that we would like to connect with Cleopatra, and asking for their assistance in allowing that to happen for us today. So the funny thing is, the very first thing that sort of comes forward is this idea of it's about time.
I honestly thought Myrtle the gatekeeper was going to step in and say it's not how it works, my friend, but okay, cool.
No. First thing I heard was it's about time. There is a feeling of, and I don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but there is a feeling of arrogance. that is
Okay.
coming forward. Okay. But not in, again, not in a like bad way. Just, she says more, I was very confident within my own powers, with my own abilities. I was very confident within who I was and what I brought, so to speak. That's the way I get it. Like, okay, so I'm going to just sort of ask, is this Cleopatra? When I say that, even as I'm saying it, she says the one and only is how it comes forward. Again, this very, very much a sense of, again, I don't want to use the word arrogance, but just of a confidence, of an assuredness, of an ownership of her value and her worth. So she comes to me very elegantly. So I feel like my posture is shifting. I feel like I'm sort of straightening up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So I definitely feel like this is her energy. So Joe, did you have any specific questions for Cleopatra?
Again, no, I just wanted to see if she would come forward. But now that she's here, let's ask some questions. Does she have any? So she was, I think, from what I looked at online yesterday, sort of the last, I guess the word is pharaoh. They say last active ruler of the kingdom of Egypt before it got taken over by the Romans for a short period of time. Well, hundreds of years, I think. But
pause 1 second. Pause 1 second. She interjected and said, men with their tempers. Just saying. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but I had to bring that forward because it very, very clearly came in. So
no, pharaohs are allowed to interrupt me. So that's the general blanket rule on the show. So does she have any regrets about how she sort of managed Egypt?
She says life itself is the process of taking action and learning from those actions. She says, so am I completely confident in all that I put forth? Perhaps there would be things that I would change, but then perhaps the lessons that needed to be learned would not have been so. Okay.
Okay. Would she have done anything? Would she have done anything differently?
I heard less violence. She says, I ruled with a firm hand, and in some ways, and due to that, I feel I perhaps set a precedent for behaviors that I no longer, from this perspective, are looking back on, am in favor of.
How has the male-female dynamic changed from her time to now? And was it odd to have a female ruler at that time?
So as you asked the first part of the question, she says, when you asked if it has changed, she said changing, but not yet enough. So then the second part of the question was, sorry, remind me again, Joe?
Just about male-female dynamics, and also was it odd to have a female ruler in Egypt at that time? Because it seems to me like if you look, for example, at the presidents of the United States, they've all been male since inception till today. Even Canada, we've had only one female prime minister who didn't win an election to get in there. She was just sort of assigned it from the then prime minister who stepped down. But it seems like back in these times, there were other female rulers. I don't think she was the first one. So there seemed to be more acceptance of female rulers.
It was odd, yes, but there was some connection to, I hear the word birthright. So I don't know if she was born into the role, if that's how that works, but there was just some reason, like logistical reason, that made sense for her to be in that position. And because of that, her ruling or her being the ruler was sort of, it couldn't be disputed. So odd, she says, more so in that there was a discomfort. There was always a level of discomfort, and she says continues to be to this day, when a woman is the person in charge. So let me stay with that for a second and see if she'll elaborate. Yes, again, she says it was more common in her time, but again, it feels like it was more to do with these rights, like birthrights. Like right now, like I'm seeing an image of the royal family, whereby rulership, I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's passed on through lineage and through societal, I'm not even sure the word, but it's not like they were chosen by the people per se. Like it's not as though there was an election and they all ran and then people got to decide and vote, right? It was more based on the societal structure as to who stepped into the roles of the ruler. It's funny because her energy's here and I'm going in and out. I don't know if you can tell. I'm going in and out between myself and her. And again, it's one of those times where I feel like when she's actually speaking, there's a change in my voice.
You say that a lot. You say that a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if
I don't
anybody
really
else picks
perceive
up
it.
on
Yeah, I don't know if maybe if I was there, you get a different perception, but I don't know.
Yeah, she just sort of has this different way, and I can't even mimic it without her energy. Just she has this sort of different resonance when she's speaking. So yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe now that I've said it, people will pick up on it more, or you'll notice it more.
Yeah. Okay, I do have a few other just quick questions, sort of things I've wondered. So she had a famous relationship with Julius Caesar. And I'm wondering if that was real love or if that was political. Just sort of trying to, align herself with the Roman ruler.
Okay, so a couple things. When you first said something about a relationship, I heard something about her brother. I don't know if she had a brother, but something came forward about a brother. And then, so I'm going to hone in a little bit more now on the Julius Caesar part of the question. She says, "Can I just tell you?
Can I just tell you what just so you know?" Go ahead.
No, it's okay because you know what? Let's let her kind of step in first. It's kind of fun when I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So she says, "Aren't all relationships political?"
Oh.
Is her answer. Wow. Mutual benefit. She's talking about there being a mutual benefit to the situation. And here, this might be the brother piece because now there's something about brother versus lover. Okay, so maybe that's a way that she's using to describe sort of the framework or the feeling of her relationship. She's talking about someone on the side. She says that she didn't live without passion, that she had passionate pursuits and pursuers, but it feels like they were kept aside. They were sort of hidden. They weren't a part of her political agenda. So they almost, like the word I would sort of say this to describe the sense I'm getting is that they were kind of like behind the scenes.
Right.
And anything that happened in the public eye, so to speak, or like that was shown or known, commonly known, was part of the agenda, is how it comes forward.
Okay. So there are a lot of skeptics in the world who don't believe in what you do. They will probably say that I told you ahead of time it's going to be Cleopatra and you did your research. That's kind of how it goes, right? That didn't happen at all. But they won't believe us. But anyway, but just so you know, you just nailed the whole brother thing. So I'm going to read from the most reliable source in the world, Wikipedia. It says, so I think they're talking about her, who was before her, when he died in 51 BC, the joint reign of Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy the 13th began, but a falling out between them led to open civil war. After losing the battle of Pharsalus in Greece against his rival, Julius Caesar, and then it goes on from there. So it looks like her brother fought Julius Caesar. But anyway, she did have a brother indeed, and they were joint rulers for a while.
Wow. And as you were saying that, Joe, I was getting those intense validation tingles that I usually get. Yeah, and just to speak to your point too earlier, you know what, if I was only doing this for selfish reasons, I would be just thrilled right now, because when a spirit comes forward and they bring forward information and it is truly something I did not know, and then it resonates, for me, it's amazing. And even though I've been doing this now for several years, it still continues to blow my mind and blow me away. And so selfishly, anybody else right now can think what they want to think, and I'm totally cool with that. But for me, to get those validation tingles, to have her come forward and bring forward that information that is being validated by her existence here, or her experience here, is really super cool.
This is more of a general question for her. Wikipedia, which we know cannot make mistakes, wink, wink, describes her as a pop culture icon. And I would agree with that. So I would give the example, if you saw someone dressed as Cleopatra for Halloween, you wouldn't think twice of it. You'd go and say, wow, nice costume. And you would know immediately who it was. So even to this day, she's, I think her and King Tut are probably the two most well-known pharaohs from Egypt. Does it mean anything to her, like where she is now, to be a pop culture icon, or is it just sort of like a nothing sort of incident to her?
Okay, so a few things are coming forward as you were talking about that. So part of it she's saying is that it was her role. It was the role that she served in sort of the process or evolution or growth of humanity. So there is always a pride carried by a soul when they know that they have sort of affected or influenced this experience in the way that they had sort of intended to. She talks, and she was talking sort of in my ear while you were talking about the idea of beauty, and how she was sort of at the forefront of the idea of beauty. Like she's showing me, like with like makeup, the idea of makeup and adornment is another word that comes forward. Adorning yourself. She's also made a reference to men who are more effeminate and feel more female in the way that they exist here. She feels very connected to those, or there's a strong connection to those men who are living in the physical form of a male, but who connect with the beauty and elegance and grace of the feminine, she says. So it's just really what she's bringing forward. She says there are certain things or emotions and feelings that are more egoic in nature that really only exist here in this realm. And then there are others that we carry forward with us when we leave here. And so for her, it's not as much about sort of an egoic feeling surrounding how she's looked at or viewed or valued. It's more, again, like she said a moment ago, it's more about the idea of feeling a sense of completion or contribution to what she says, you all of you bring forward into the experience. Did that make any sense? Because I kind of zoned it a little bit out there.
Yeah, I think so. It did to me.
Cool. I do feel like she might have something else to say, Joe, so I'm going to just try to connect back in.
She has the floor.
Okay, awesome. In the coming days, it will become more the norm to see females in the position of power. Women are very in tune with their true nature or natural sense of power, as opposed to the more man-made, egoic concepts or ideas of power. She says, and this is in no way or by no means any form of judgment towards the male species or those who identify as male, more so as male. She says, again, man, woman, adult, child, all of our roles are designed with reason and with purpose. So there is no judgment in what she's saying. It's just simply a fact that those who enter into the human experience and remain more connected to or in tune with their feminine power or their feminine energy have a more grounded and even perhaps beneficial sense of what true power is. And as humanity, I was going to say expands, and I think that's the word. As humanity expands their consciousness, they will come back to being more in tune with what is an innate power or sense of power, as opposed to what has been created through the exploration of the Dark Ages and the more egoic society and structures that currently exist. Because of this, you will see a rise in the number of women who attain or achieve or stand in these more notable positions of power. And for those who are listening, she does sort of do an air quotes on the word power, because it really feels like we kind of need to, as a society, explore what power is and what power means and what defines it, right? So that's, to me, it feels as though that is why she has used the air quotes, because we have an understanding currently of what power is, but that really needs to be looked at. With that said, I'm going to just pop back into her for a second, or tune into her again. Just something about the word gracious. She's just, it's funny, she comes across very elegantly. She owned her femininity, and by owning her femininity, she didn't relinquish any of her power. She was able to do both, or exist in or with both, in a really, it feels like a really, I'm trying to think of the word, something balance, a really, I don't know if the word's like positive, like it feels good. Like she was in a pretty good balance between being feminine and beautiful. And again, I hear the word adornment, taking care of her appearance and how she looked, and presenting herself in a way that she wanted to, but also, or that was, more feminine or beautiful, sort of, do you know what I mean? Considered maybe beautiful, even externally. But at the same time, she didn't relinquish her power. She was still very strong-willed, very determined. A lot of characteristics that in today's society we might lean more towards giving to the male of the species. She had a really strong balance of both. She just brought forward the word regret. She says, I regretted losing Julius. And she says more so from a political standpoint than from a personal one. And it feels like, again, she's speaking to how she felt here when she was here. So she's not necessarily saying that's how she feels now. That was more about how she felt when she was here, is kind of how it's coming across. Again, I have no idea what the history is. Just going to see if she has anything else to say on that. She says that she and her brother, so I get this, which is often, if you're watching on the YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If not, it's like my two fingers are crossed, almost like we do sometimes when we're, wishing for something or hoping for good luck. And that to me is an indication of relationship, or a very strong relationship here in the physical world. And so she's giving me this body cue, and is saying that she and her brother are together on the other side.
Sorry, can you repeat that? They are together on the other side?
Yeah, they are together on the other side. So I don't know if she's just sharing that with us, or if there's some sort of significance to that. But she is saying that they are together where they are now.
Okay, so I'm just looking up the timeline of everything here. Julius Caesar was famously stabbed in 44 BC, and she died in 30 or so BC. So 14 years or so before she died. So that might have been what she's referring to. I don't know if they were still in a relationship at that time or not. But she died at 39 years old. Jeez.
Oh, wow. And again, it almost felt like, I think she sort of said that for whatever the political implications were of his passing, were more so what was bothersome to her, or affected her more so than her personal relationship with him. So
interesting. We're going to have to get a historian on the show.
Yeah.
To ask the questions. I'm just like using Wikipedia here. Okay. A fun question, and then we'll end with a more serious question. Fun question is this. It says that she's buried in an unlocated tomb. So is there any lost history of Egypt that she'd like, from her era of Egypt, not modern day, that she'd like us to know about? And can she give us the exact longitude and latitude of her tomb so we can dig it up and be famous?
All right. Well, let's see. So the funny thing is before you asked the second part of the question and you were still on the first part of the question, she came forward with, she's not meant to be found. And then she said, yet.
Oh.
So it does feel as though there will be a time, or there is a time, whereby more will be discovered, more will be learned. She says, there's a bunch of stuff flooding in right now. I'm getting images of pyramids. I'm getting reference to extraterrestrials. Wow. Yeah, she says there's going to be more that is uncovered or discovered, which humanity is not quite yet ready to embrace. So she says, as for the second or latter half of your question, not today.
Okay.
So she's not giving you anything.
No, not
longitude or latitude for you.
But like a typical politician, she talked a lot, but she didn't say anything of value, right?
Yeah. So she does say that there are exciting times ahead for the race of humans, or of humanity. Much more exploration. And it's like, the idea is that we uncover what we do with purpose or for reason. So we've uncovered what we have of the past to this point, because that's what we're meant to know and understand at this time. But there is a lot more, she's sort of saying, about our history as a species, as an existence, that is buried within the earth itself, she says.
Oh.
And as time goes on and moves forward, much more is going to be revealed. The other very interesting thing she's bringing forward is that the more we connect with energy, the more we learn how to understand the world from an energetic perspective, the more we are going to learn and discover. Because she says we're so fixated on the tangible, on the physical, on the literal. So when she said within the earth, we all immediately thought, oh, it's all buried. It's buried under the ground and we're all going to dig it up.
Yeah.
But what she's saying is that no, there's so much information that exists within the molecular structure, the molecules, the energetic makeup of the earth and your environment itself. So the more we learn how to utilize our intuition and how to understand the world from the point of view of energetics, the more we are going to uncover and discover. And she says, and indeed, it will be fascinating. Ooh, wow. That was cool.
Now I have two more questions because she said something that made me think of something.
Okay.
Did she have any what would be considered intuitive powers like yours while she was on Earth?
Okay. So as you were asking the question, the first word that came forward was grounded. So I'm not sure what she means exactly by that. But it feels like it feels as though she was very grounded in the human experience. But then she sort of says, interpret that as you will or as you wish. And she says, and as time goes on, the interpretation of that statement will itself shift and change and morph as you learn more and more about what makes up your existence. Was that another one of those political answers where she didn't really answer it? Or did she?
No, I thought she actually did. She talked about how things shift. And so I think that when people are channeling like you, we talked about the Janet filter on this podcast before, and that you use English words and images that you would understand, right? They're not going to show you like a molecular cell because you wouldn't know what you were looking at, kind of thing, right? But they will show you things that you have experience in. And I think it goes with most religions that, like, if you look at the Abrahamic religions, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, God is like a man because they were patriarchal societies. And so they associate power with a man, right? So when she's saying it will shift, I think that you have to sort of take the words that she's giving as they are. And as you change, your perception of what they mean might change.
Absolutely. I love the way you explained that.
I gotta get my own podcast.
You do. I should be the host. From now on, we're going to introduce the show.
No way.
The star of the show, Jolie Wong. But that's so fascinating too, because one of the things that's been really interesting for me as I've gone through this process is that I have received so much incredible, profound wisdom, information about life itself, the workings of life, why we're here, and all of this guidance as to how to shift our perspective and look at things in a different way, and how that will be beneficial for us, and how we're growing and learning, and all of these things. And I've just been downloading all of this information into all of these journals. But for me, it's been a bit of a frustration because I want to immediately be able to understand and amalgamate everything they're saying. And I have found that that's just not possible. I mean, number one, there's just so much. There's just so much that they have shared. So I can only work at my human pace to figure it all out and apply it. But also what you're talking about too, in that, I can receive a message and it doesn't really actually resonate or make complete sense until a year later.
Yeah, I've noticed that happening a lot with both of us. A message you've emailed me, and then a year later, I remember a phrase from it, and I go into my email and I check it, and oh yeah, sure enough, that makes sense now. Yeah. And
one of the other pieces of that too is that I've come to understand that sense of immediacy is much more of sort of an egoic energy, or a lower vibrational or denser energy, a very human existence energy, where we just need everything to happen and happen so fast. So when I get the message, I think I'm supposed to understand it and apply it, and it's going to happen like in the next moment. Whereas, as we've talked about, time is very different here as opposed to where spirit currently are sort of residing. And so, yeah, these messages that I'll come across that I thought were supposed to happen like the next day, maybe 2 years later, are actually making more sense, or the things that they were referring to are actually manifesting at that time. So yeah, it's really fascinating if we can kind of keep that understanding that we're constantly shifting and changing, and we're learning and we're growing and we're moving in a direction, and to take the information from that perspective and not be so rigid, and not need to be so literal or so 3D or so material about things. I think that that's a direction that we are all going to be moving forward into.
Great. Maybe we can get back to the third wheel here, the last pharaoh of Egypt, Cleopatra.
Yeah, I sort of went on a bit of a rant there.
Well, I did too, but since she's just sitting there, and this is doesn't happen every day. Final question, unless she wants to say anything. Does she have any final words of wisdom for humanity at this time, or does she have anything else she wants to say?
So as you say that, again, it's funny because they always start to kind of interject before you even finish the question. And it was something along the lines of be open-minded. She says it's the greatest gift that you can offer to not only yourselves, but to humanity itself in moving forward into the new age of the existence of humanity. Allow yourselves to expand. Just 1 second, because it feels like she might be continuing on. For that is where the true, I can't quite get the word. I'm going to ask her to be a little more clear. It's something along the lines of value. I think she shifted the word because I wasn't picking it up to value, but it's where the true value in the experience itself lies. Is the expansion or the expansiveness of the perspective of the human being, of engaging in what is an existence that is unique unto itself and unlike any other. But the more you limit yourselves, the more you stomp your feet to the ground in a stance of pride and, again, I'm not quite getting the word. It comes across like stuckness, like if we won't open or like a blinded sort of point of view, or a rigid point of view. She says the more of a disservice you are doing, not only again to your own selves, but to the existence itself. Open your minds, she says. Thank you for the honor of being and sharing with you today. And she's done like one of these sort of things. So for those who are listening, it's where you look like you're praying. So she sort of put her hands together in that prayer formation and did like a little head nod forward. And she is stepping out. Wow.
Okay. What an awesome episode of Talking to the Dead with Janet Kubik. Thank you to Cleopatra, and thank you to Janet Kubik for doing the heavy lifting. I just kind of sat here and cracked jokes and looked at Wikipedia pages.
But you are the star of the show now, Joe.
Now I am, yes. I'd like to remind people to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast or YouTube show, or however you found it, with anybody that you think might be interested in this type of program. And also, please visit janetkubik.com, JANETKUBIK.com. Sign up for her email list, and when a new podcast comes out, we will send you an email. No more than once a week when the podcast is shooting. And then when it's not shooting, you will not hear from us probably. It's like maybe one a month at most. We don't send 10 a day like some people do. So anyway, thank you, Janet. Thank you, Cleopatra. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much.